Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Rabbi Isai, this is what is going on here. This looks like the Amma. This looks good. Basically, there's a water stream, a live stream, and those you can see on the side, the two holes. I guess he's showing it goes straight in. I don't know where he got that from. Anyway, the idea is that Poikikim, we plug up. I didn't understand exactly. If there's like a real stream going through, how exactly are you going to plug it up? But we plug up the main drainage. Anyway, Rabbi Yehuda says it looked something like this. That there was a lot of blood there. Up to their knees. Yoshi did this based on a picture. So Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, there was so much blood on the floor from there was millions of karbanos. Every person in Klal Yisrael brought a carbon pesach, had to be part of a carbon pesach. And the concern is that perhaps some carbon didn't get a chance to have zrika, and it's on the floor, it's in this big pool of blood. So you take one cup, hopefully there's a big, it just includes a drop from every single carbon, and you do a quick zrika on the bottom of the mizbeach. But there's a few technical problems here. If this animal was shechted and there was no Kabbalah Saddam in a vessel, what good is it that you're going to grab one vessel of blood and toss it on the Mizbeach? So the Gemara says, B'no Yadi. How do you know that there was a carbon like that? Maybe it wasn't a kli and then it fell on the floor. You're right, I don't know for sure there's such a carbon, but maybe. No, I was talking about that there was a real Kabbalah. But maybe out of the million of Kabbalahs, there's 3 groups of Yisrael, and just a big mess. Crazy what's going on there. Everybody's in and out, karbanos, noise, mad, times a million, But how did Rabbi Yehuda know that it fell out of the kli? Maybe the blood came out of the neck of the animal. Says the Gemara, Kohanim's reason va'avdin hayo mishtapchen. The Kohanim, they work so fast, they're very, very quick, and therefore within because they're so speedy, it must be that some of the blood fell out. Balidam tamtis murav boy. Oh. So the problem is, you have a whole pool of blood here. This pool of blood. There's a lot of animals that after the shechita, they fall down on the floor and they bleed out. Part of the blood that comes out is the final blood that's called dam tamsis, that's not kosher for the zrika. And there's a lot of that blood, a lot. And a lot of that blood could actually be mevatel, the other blood maybe. Maybe there's a roiv of the other blood. Says the Gemara, dam tamsis kari dam. No, dam tamsis is considered real blood. The sign dam tamsis b'Chazarah. How do you know that if you eat that blood, you get kares like any other blood? Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'kares. It's not just a warning; it's kares. So the Gemara asks, but Rabbi Yehuda agrees that this is not blood that you can use on the mizbeach. It has to be the blood that the neshama goes out with, not the leftover blood, the initial blood. And Mamela, since it's not good for zrika, as the Gemara, this is not blood that the neshama goes out with. And if it's not blood that the neshama goes out with, there's a lot of this blood on the floor. So how's it going to work? How's it going to help you if you use that blood for zrika? It's actually going to pass the other blood. There is some blood in there that's good blood, that's good neshama shat, the blood that the neshama is totally in it, and that blood is not going to be mizbatel. What about the bad blood, so to speak, the damatamtzis? So Taisis, if you look on top, he says some lashon over here that's islay royin. You pretend that it's water. He says, okay. You're using, within the blood, there's some good blood that's good for zrika, there's some bad blood, bad blood, it's min b'minoi, it's not mizbatel, and at the end of the day you have good blood, and with that good blood you're doing zrika. If we're not going to take a scoop full of blood from the ground, from the floor, and that it's all mixed in with everybody's carbon and do one final zrika. So what's the point of plugging up the Azara? It was a cover for them to walk. This is blood that was done for Shechita, for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so it was a cover for them to walk in that blood. Ask the Gemara, but you have to be stepping directly on the floor of the Azara. Isn't this getting in the way? Isn't it blocking your foot from stepping directly on the stone? Says the Gemara, no, when it comes to liquid, it doesn't create a chatzitza. Lachu. Any liquid does not create a chatzitza. The snan, hadam, vadyoy, hadvash, vacholav, ink, honey, milk. When they dry up, that's considered a blockage. It's chatzitza. Ask the Gemara, but his clothing are going to get dirty. If a kohen's clothing are dirty and he does the avodah, avodah psula. So how could this picture is not a good picture then? Right over here, look at it. It's dirty. They can't do the avodah like that. You'll say that they lifted it up. We had a whole sugi about that, remember? It says it's his size. It has to be literally his size. You can't have too short. You can't have too long. And then we had a whole thing. Megazgayas, if you put it, you tuck it into your belt as if you cut it off. Literally, it has to be the right. You can't lift it up. Says the Gemara. This Gemara that says the Kohanim walked in the blood was only for something like bringing the Emurim to the ramp. The lava voidehi, that's okay. That doesn't pass if they have dirty clothes. It says it's hakrava, it is part of the avodah. So kohen should not be bringing the ivarim to the mizbeach when his clothes are dirty. When he brings the wood to that's what it was. Here we are. This. I didn't even show it last night. I forgot. You see his clothes are dirty, full of blood on the bottom. I love it. Geschmack. That's the eitim to the maracha. That's not an avodah, and that your clothes could be dirty. That's a Gemara. But if there's so much blood, how do they perform the zrika? Says Gemara Azli, istabe. They had these istabas. So over here they were passing one to the other. Says the Mishnah, these are halachas that we already had. We're doing a little Chazarah. Let's talk about pigul. We'll do the simplest case without any complications, without adding any parts to it. If a kohen, while performing the first, all the avodas, all four avodas, shchita, kabbalah, hoilacha, zrika, thinks in his mind that he's going to eat this animal at a barbecue in a week from now, where you could only eat this animal in 2 days from now. That's it. There's a limit, a 2-day limit. And he thought he's going to eat it in a week. So that creates chutz lazman. He's thinking about eating it outside of its time. It's only allowed for 2 days. He's thinking about eating it for a week, in a week from now. That makes it pigul. It makes it possible. If he would go a step further and actually take a bite out of it, then he would be chayiv kares. If he doesn't take a bite out of it, it's still pigul, it's still possible. So the Mishnah is now going to tell us cases where it's not pigul. One of the cases is if it's, let's say, the kidney, which is edible. People eat it, forget a kidney. Let's say it's a piece of meat, geschmack is steak, but it's supposed to go on the mizbeach. And you're thinking to yourself, you're going to eat that steak, not put it on the mizbeach. You're going to take it home and eat it in a week from now at a barbecue. So it's davar she'ein darkei lechol. Why is it not darkei lechol? Not because it's not edible. We're going to talk a whole sugya about things that are seriously not edible, like the beard of a goat, like a fetus, very not edible. Placenta, so part of it. The shilya, that's the whole sugya. Maybe somebody could eat it. It's disgusting. So the crop of a bird, We're not even talking. We're talking about a real steak here. But since it's supposed to go on the mizbeach, or he thought to himself that he's going to take, instead of eating the steak which you're permitted to eat, I'm going to take that steak and put it onto the mizbeach in 1 week from now. That's also a type of pigul, because not to confuse anybody, but eating is not only human eating is also the mizbeach eating. So by putting meat onto the mizbeach, thinking about putting meat on the mizbeach is also part of pigul. Putting the blood onto the mizbeach in a week from now is also pigul. Kosher. That's not pigul. Pigul isn't something that you are supposed to be eating at home, and you thought about eating it at home, but not tomorrow, in a week from now. Rebbe Lezer Poisel, and Rebbe Lezer says that creates a psul in the animal. Lechol dover shadar lechol akd dover shadar lahakd b'chazim kizayis. What if he thought to himself he's going to eat less than the shear in all achilas, matzah, and everything? It's kizayis. And he thought that he's going to eat in a week from now. A tiny piece of that. He heard that steak is unbelievable. So he's going to taste it in 1 week from now. Kosher. That's not pigul. Why? Because you have to have a whole shear. Even Rebbe Lezer agrees in that case. That's kosher. We had this halacha a few times. If you want to combine, there are combinations that create pigul, but this is not one of them. Why? Because one of them is to eat, and one of them to put on the mizbeach. They're both achilas, the two types of achilas. But one is human consumption, and one is mizbeach consumption. A half a kazayis of one, and a half a kazayis of the other do not combine to one kazayis of pigul kosher. Because human eating and the aktor on the mizbeach do not come together. These are all kifa, any way you want to spell it. It means the sediment. Roitev is the gravy, the juice from you do a good roast. We all had on Yontiv, geschmack and meat. Most of us. On the bottom, there's like a little gravy. That's not meat. Or a full kazayis of the hide of the animal. Things that are not meat, not edible so much. Umina olo. Umina atzama is from the bones. Olo would be something like... It's a neck sinew. Here it is. Olo, the red thing. Yeah, gidat saver, according to Rashi. Umina gidim is just sinews. Umina karnaim. Umina tlafayim. Tlafayim, this tlafayim. Chutz l'zmanoi v'chutz l'mkoyim kosher. If he had a thought that he's going to eat it outside the allotted time, outside the allotted place, let's say all the stuff you're supposed to eat in the Beis Hamikdash or in Yerushalayim, and he thought he's going to eat the bones of the animal, the horns of the animal in Bet Shemesh, kosher, that's not pigul. That's not chutz l'mkoyim. Also, all these things, the gravy, the sinews, if you left it overnight, you're not over a noiser, which is Isser Karis, v'tamei, and if you yourself are tumming, you eat from it, you're not over. Now we're moving on to female animal, says Rashi. Mugdashim would be female. Until now we're talking about Zevach Mugdashim. It's a way to say an akeva. Lechol shlil or shilyo b'chutz, to eat the fetus or the afterbirth outside of its place or time. In other words, you think to yourself, I am going to eat, he's shechting this animal, he thinks to himself, one part of the animal, the fetus, the ubar, I'm going to eat in a week from now. Loi pigel. Why is it not pigel? Says Rashi that the ubar is not part of the animal. We have machlokes throughout Shas, whether or not ubar yerech imoy is the fetus like the thigh. How do you say yerech? The thigh of the mother. Here, this is Yoshi did this back in the day. Now it actually moves. Is the fetus the thigh of the mother? The kids are a part of the mother. It's like another aver. So Mamela says, Rashi, no. The Tana over here holds it's not part of the animal. So if you think about something that's not part of the animal, that doesn't create pigul. It was part of the animal. Let's say you said, I want to eat the heart of this cow in 5 days from now. That would be pigul, because the heart is part of the animal. But the fetus not. Hamoilek, you do Malika. Malika, let's show Malika again. Sorry. You take the thumbnail, the nail of the thumbnail, it's long, and you go right through the back of, thank you, the back of the neck of the bird, and that's how you, if you do this outside the Beis HaMikdash, that will create a nevela. Inside the Beis HaMikdash, that's how you do it. So while you're doing this, you thought to yourself, Lechol beitzeim b'chutz. I'm going to eat the eggs of this pigeon outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Loi pigel. Again, the eggs are not part and parcel of the pigeon. Chalev mukdashim. We're talking about the milk, not the chalev. The chalav of the mukdashim. So again, the female animal has milk. Ubeitzei torim, and the eggs of a pigeon. Ein chayom aleim mishum pigel. There's no pigel. V'noisar, left overnight. V'tomei, and if you are tomei and you eat it, and you drink the milk, you have cereal with the milk of a carbon, you're not chayiv. Omar Rebbe Lazar, says Rebbe Lazar. So this basically, we have to pay attention now for 10 seconds, because this is the sugya now. Here's the question. If you have a part of the animal, like the fetus inside the animal, and Rebbe Lezer holds it is part of the animal, so what happens if you think that the whole animal is pigel? You're going to eat this entire animal in a week from now. Does it include the fetus, yes or no? Yes, why not? It's in there. But what if you focus on the fetus, and you say, the fetus I'm going to eat in a week from now? Does it include the whole animal? So that's the shayla. Amar Rebbe Lazar. Pigel bazevach. If you think about the larger animal as a whole, nispagel hashlil. So then the fetus itself becomes pigel, because the fetus is inside of it and it includes everything. It would actually include the hair. It would include all these things that we said are not included. Include all the sinews, everything. Beshlil. But if you're talking about that I'm going to eat this fetus which is not edible, it's disgusting right now, and that I want to eat in a week from now, and that's all I'm thinking about. I'm only thinking about one thing out of this whole animal, and it's not an edible part. That doesn't create a pigel for the rest of the animal. Therefore, we continue. Pigel ba'alol. If you're talking about, here we go, the alol, that red line over there, that sinew that goes right through the neck of the bird, which is edible, yeah, it's nice and soft, edible. Nispagla mura. So now you have the crop, which is a very gross thing. It has all this, rotten food that the bird just ate. It's that little stomach thing over there. People don't eat that. But since you made pigel on the edible part of the bird, so it goes, the whole bird becomes pigel. But if you started bimura, if you said that I'm going to eat this crop, this stomach thing, just it, I'm going to eat it in a week from now, it doesn't go to the reverse. It doesn't apply to the rest of the bird. Why? Because it's not edible. Pigel be'emurim. If you thought that you're going to eat the emurim, so I don't have a good, forgot to ask Yoshi, but this is the emurim that we had when it comes to sheep. The aliyah, we're certainly not talking about that now, because we're talking about a cow. The kidneys, the yiseres hakaved. So these are things that go on the mizbeach. That's something that's edible for the mizbeach. So if I thought about making these emurim, these parts, pigel, so it would spread to the whole animal. Nispaglu parim. So we're talking about, just as what are we talking about over here? We're talking about these cows that we spoke about in Horius, or we just had Yom Kippur, the Par Kohen Gadol. What do you do with the Par Kohen Gadol? What do you do with it? You burn it. Where do you burn it? Anybody know? Where? What's outside? You burn it outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Here, let me see if I have a thing. Right over here. Outside of Yerushalayim. Here's the par. You see the horns over there? And there's a pile of all the coals and all the leftover ashes from the Mizbeach go over there. It's called Beis HaDeshen. It's outside of Yerushalayim. So if I think to myself, I'm going to burn, typically speaking, if I say to myself, I'm going to burn the carbon which needs to be burnt, I'm going to burn it on the Mizbeach in a week from now, that would be pigul. Why? Because that's what you do. You burn a carbon on a Mizbeach. What if I say I'm going to burn the cow over here, right over here, outside of Yerushalayim? I'm going to burn it. That's not a haktara. That's not one of the things that we call eating. That's not a type of food. It's a type of burning. That's not pigul. So, if the pigul in my mind was, I am going to do this action, I'm going to burn this cow in a week from now, that's not pigul. And therefore it doesn't apply to anything of the cow, not to the imurim garnished. But if I think to myself, I'm going to do the imurim in a week from now, so it spreads to the entire cow, even this part that you typically burn. It's the same idea. Starting from a part that's not edible, it does not spread to the rest of the cow. If you start from a part that's edible, then it spreads to the rest of the cow. So mela pigul beimurim, that's edible for the mizbeach nispaglu parim. So the whole bull becomes pigul beparim. But if you thought that you're going to burn the par over there in this picture in a week, in a month from now, nispaglu beimurim, then it doesn't spread to anything. Says Gemara. V'shavim lim seilei. So again, he says that if you do pigul on the whole thing, then even a part that's not edible becomes pigul. If you do the pigul on the part that's not edible, it does not spread to the rest. Lim seilei, I have a right to him. V'shavim, there's no machlokes shem chisha b'achilas parim u'b'seirfasam lo asav lo klum, that if the kohen had a mind that he's going to burn these bulls outside the allotted time in 2 weeks from now, it's nothing. My love, ha'chisha beimurim nispaglu parim. Could be medayik. That's because he thought about the bull. But what if he would have thought about the imurim, the parts that go onto the mizbeach, that are not burned outside of Yerushalayim? Then everything would become pigul. So Gemara, nice try. You do make it such. You could make a diuk, but you did it the wrong way. It's not. Again, if you the halach is if you thought about the actual bull, it's not pigul. So we want to say, but if you thought about the imurim, it is for the whole cow. No, it is for the imurim itself. Loi. If you think about the whole cow, 0. But if you think about the imurim become pigul, but only the imurim. Don't try to do Rebbe Eliezer's halacha that it spreads to the rest of the cow. No, the imurim become pigul. Toshma. The flaminate Amud Beis on top. Me'ilah means that if you use something from the Beis Hamikdash without permission, unauthorized usage, you have to pay a fine. You have to pay 25%, and you have to bring a carbon. It's an expensive thing to do. When does that start? From the moment that you say that this bull is for the Beis Hamikdash, for the usage of the Beis Hamikdash. Nishchatu, once the bull is shechted, then we know what a Tful Yoim is, we discuss it, we'll say it again. Tful Yoim is a person who's tameh, goes to the mikvah. Once he goes to the mikvah, he's semi-tahar. He has to wait until Erev Shemesh, until nightfall. That period of time, he still has the ability to make things tameh, puzzle. If he touches, let's say, truma, kachim, so here's this kachim. He touches this animal, boom, makes it tameh, makes it puzzle. Or a person who's, let's say, a zav, he went to the mikvah. It's already nightfall, but he's not completely tar until he brings a carbon. So he's called a mechusar kippurim. He has the ability, when he touches, to make things possible. And it also becomes possible lino. Once you shecht it, if you leave it overnight, it's no good. My lav, linas basar, aren't we talking about the meat? Ushmamina, migi, the possible lino, pasla ba machshava. This is a little bit of a jump. Some of you are not going to like it, because you don't understand it 100%, but there's a jump here. We're saying if something becomes possible because it was left overnight is a problem with time. There's a time issue here. It went past its allotted time. So Mamela, if you think in your mind about past time, that's what pigul is, you're thinking about eating it past the allotted time, it should also be possible. Says Gemara Loi, Linas Imurim, we're not talking about the actual meat, we're talking about the Imurim here. As Gemara, I thought about that, and the reason why I thought it's talking about meat is because I wanted to match the end of everything should be consistent. Beis Hadeshin is that place where you burn the bull outside of Yerushalayim. You're over Me'ilah, let's say it's raining, and you pick up that bull as it's burning, you pick it up to use as an umbrella. You'd be over Me'ilah until it becomes coals, until it becomes nothing. Yutach HaBasar. but it says the word basar. It doesn't say imurim. And we're talking about Beis Hadeshin. There's no imurim over there. Basar. Miklad Reish Alina's basar. So to be consistent, then the first part of the mission is also talking about basar. Midiri, who told you? Why? Vasepis. Hakidis. No, the Reish is talking about the imurim. The Sefer is talking about Reish imurim. Sefer basar. Okay. Sometimes the Lashon fits in. Sometimes we're talking about two separate cases. This is one of the times that the mission is talking about a case in the Reisha about Imurim and the Sefer about Basar. What's the Rabbah? There are things that never become pigul and they cannot create pigul for something else. Like what? The hair on the head of a sheep. That beautiful goat beard. The oriv, and the skin, and that sinew, v'hamura, and the crap, v'karnaim. So if somebody eats, you try to eat this, you cannot do pigul on a horn. You can't say, oh, I'm going to eat this horn in a week from now. That's not pigul. It's not edible. Vatlofayim and the hooves, v'hashlil and the fetus, v'hashilyon, the afterbirth, v'chalav and the milk, hamugdoshim that are from the nekeva, ubeitzitorim and the eggs of the birds, of the pigeons, kulam loy mefaglim, v'loy mispaglim. They themselves don't become pigul, and if you make pigul on them, it doesn't create a pigul to the rest of the animal. There's no, if you leave it overnight, you leave it past a lot of time, you're fine. You don't get a isser for leaving the antler. If you take a horn and you bring it into your backyard bama and you bring it up as a ktara, you potter. My love, loy mefaglim hazevach, veloy mispaglim machma zevach. L'chayra means that if you have a thought just on the horn, it doesn't spread to the rest of the animal. And if you had a thought on the animal itself, the horn does not become pigul, or the fetus doesn't become pigul. And that would be a big problem to who? To Rebbe Lezer, who said that if you have a machshav of pigul on the mother animal, it does go to the fetus. Just you can't go from the fetus to the animal. The fetus is not edible, but it's part of that. It's part of the animal, says Rebbe Lezer. So the Gemara loy mefaglim says zevach. Don't be medayik like that. Say no. If you think about the fetus, pigul fetus, it doesn't spread to the animal. V'loy mispaglim machmas atzmon. If you try to go directly to the fetus and make it pigul, it doesn't become pigul. But if you go to the mother, then it does spread to the fetus, like Rebbe Lezer. Ihache asked the Gemara. Why does it say repeat it twice? That was like basically what you were asking a second ago, like that kind of deal. Why does it say it twice? Why do you need it twice? In other words, if you're telling me that a fetus doesn't become pigul ever, then that's the pshat. It doesn't become pigul when you look at it directly and say you are pigul, and it doesn't become pigul when I look at the mother and say the mother is pigul, and the fetus does not become pigul either. So those are the two. That's why the Brisa says it twice. It doesn't become pigul in both situations. It doesn't become pigul. But if you're telling me that it does become pigul itself, there's only one case. In other words, it becomes pigul when the mother. You do it on the mother, the fetus becomes pigul. But if you do it on the fetus, so that's only once. So why does the Brisa have to say it twice? Ella. So I'll tell you the answer. The answer is me asking you a question. It says it a third time that there's no pigul. Why does it have to say it? Hello. The reason why it says it the third time is because it's going on another case of noiser and tameh. So there's also another case here, and that's why I have to say it a second time, of bringing it onto a bama in your backyard. Rava Omar, and Rava has a riot to Rebbe Eliezer. We learned in our Mishnah. If somebody, while he's shechting the animal, the mother, he's thinking that he's going to eat the fetus outside of its allotted time or place, that's not pigul. And if he had the same thought with the mother pigeon about the eggs, no pigul. And then it says, the milk, what's missing from that line? It seems like that if you go directly to the fetus, you are chayiv. El ashmami no. How come it's missing? Kan machmas hazevach, kan machmas atzmon. If you go to the mother, like Rabbi Lezer says, if you do pigul on the mother, so the fetus is included in the mother, it becomes pigul. But when you look directly at the fetus and you say this is pigul, it's not going to work because it's not edible. Shmami no. It's not awesome. Ubali mumim. If it has a mum, it has to come off. Says Rabbi Kiva, no, I argue. Ubali mumim. Rabbi Kiva machshir bebali mumim. If it has a mum, if it went onto the mizbeach, lawyer do. They don't come off. Why? But there's two conditions. That's dafka, something like a cataract that doesn't ruin a bird carbon. If a bird has a cataract, you can put it on the mizbeach. Another thing, it has to be that the mum happened afterwards. Because if the mum was before it became hegdish, then it will never become the proper hegdish. It won't become gedushas haguf. It will become gedushas mum and bedek abayis. If this animal is an akeva, the command the kadamuma, there's a lot. The women that are watching now, I gotta explain because they might get slightly insulted. The Gemara is saying that if you put a female animal on the mizbeach, to be a female is a mum. Yes, and to be a male is a mum if you're supposed to put a female on the mizbeach. It's not a mum to be a female. It means, in this case, a oila can only be a zachar. Bazar of zera. Hamala mehem b'chutz pater. If you take a fetus and you put it outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you pater hameimon chayev. Mashma that if you take the mother itself, the mother of the fetus, only if you put the fetus outside of the Beis Hamikdash, you pater. The mother, you be chayev. Now, beichem mishkachas la. The only hechatim I can find is ba'olas in the keva. If the mother is a oila. Because there are other korbanos that are nekevas, like shlamim and achatos, but the meat is not something you put on the mizbeach. The meat is something that you eat yourself. If you hold like Rabbi Kiva, if you said that the pshat in Rabbi Kiva is that once it goes on the mizbeach, it doesn't come off. So I have a situation where you have a oilas nekeva, which is not supposed to be, but you leave it there. So you have meat that goes on the mizbeach. But if you hold that by a oila, nekeva, you have to take it off the mizbeach. Hamani, we don't have a single man omar or a single type of meat that goes on the mizbeach and stays on the mizbeach. Ema hamalam and bechutz patur homeimurei iman chayav. No, we're talking about the imurim of the mother. In other words, we're talking about a chatas and a shlamim, not a oila. We're talking about the meat of the fetus, and the mother is similar to that. So we're talking about the meat, not the imurim. Ela Ema says the Gemara, Hamala meimureim b'chutz pater. We're talking about the imurim of the fetus. Hameimurei iman chayev. But from the imurim of the mother, you are chayev. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDAF.com.